good morning, everyone. Thank you for making the time. We're definitely going to make this recording available. I will update the slides that has the links to all the recordings, including the one from the first session. But we'll make that available to you as well, Colleen, so you can share the recordings with folks who are not in attendance. So I am really, I'm really honored to introduce my fellow founder advocate team member, David White, on the phone. So he's based out in the Bay Area, former founder. David is the person I go to when I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. He does so many things in the startup community in the Bay Area. It's like Where's Waldo when I look at his LinkedIn to see which session he's talking at. So he participates in a lot of startup community sessions over there, several different things. He goes to a lot of our big events like GTC and stuff like that for the Google side. He's also he's a part of us managing the A16Z partnership. He and I kind of switch around on handling that stuff. And then he's, of course, deeply engaged in the ecosystem. David is a person to talk to when you have a question about, hey, what's this like? And he'll typically have a great story. His other superpower is that you can land him anywhere in the world and you can find an awesome place to get a meal, which is, I've leaned on that superpower quite a few times. So I know I've said a lot of things about David, but I just wanted to set the table that I'm so happy he was able to make the time to talk with us today. So please take the floor, David.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction. I hope I can live up to that. So thank you very much for having me here. Let me go ahead and share my presentation so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. And all right, we are here. As Len mentioned, my name is David White. I am a fellow global founder advocate here in Google for Startups. And what gives me the right to have this role? Prior to Google buying the startup that I was with about 7 years ago, I spent 20 years up and down Silicon Valley building startups. A lot of time in healthcare, some time in everything from video games, behavioral health, fintech. I was with one company where we were doing AI before the cloud existed. And so we were actually building deep neural networks in internet cafes in China using surplus compute power there. Long story short, when we moved to GPUs, Ethereum ate our lunch because the cafe owners could get more money mining than we could pay them. But I've been doing this for a very long time. Prior to startups, I've spent 5 years at the UN in Washington, D.C. and in Geneva. And now since coming to Google, I get to work with amazing people like Len and with our startup community and our venture community, and really get to spend a lot of time telling stories of really bad decisions that I've made and begging people to make their own bad decisions and not repeat mine. So with that, I'm going to throw 3 numbers at you. 6, 90, and 42. If anybody has a guess as to what those numbers might be, throw your guess in the chat. And if nobody has a guess, that's fine too.
Anyone in person?
So to verify getting into your account.
Yeah. I feel like that's
It's just 2-factor.
on YouTube.
It's a good guess. So, report back in December. Right now, it takes 6 days to start a company. That's it. 90% failure rate for startups. And 42 is the average age of somebody starting a company right now. So being immersed in tech, spending a lot of time dealing with startups, helping them get going, there is a sense that it's all about the youth and all about the enthusiasm. But the reality is, it's the older crowd, it's the middle-aged people that have the benefit of experience that are the ones that are predominantly starting the new companies.
David, we don't like to say middle-aged, we like to say tenured.
I like that. I like that. Well, then you're going to love this next one.
Okay.
So 50, 2, 60, and 3. Yeah, 42 is the new 22 from your mouth. 50-year-olds are twice as likely to have a successful company as a 30-year-old, and 60-year-olds are 3 times as likely. and significantly more likely to have the successful company that winds up in that top 0.1% that really becomes a breakout company. So why is that? Largely, it's my opinion, there's two reasons. One is the benefit of experience. You understand a domain, you understand a field, but you also understand what it means to fail. You understand what it means when things get hard. And I've got a little video clip at the end, if we have time for it, of Carol Larson talking about everybody waits for things to get easy. Things never get easy. You learn to handle hard. And by the time you're 50 and 60 years old, you've learned how to be a person who knows how to handle hard. So once upon a time, when I started in startups, you would typically have two founders. You would have a technical founder and you would have a business founder. And the technical founder was somebody who had 10 to 20 years experience doing enterprise software. They loved the technology. Likely, as the company gained traction, they would grow into a CTO role. And they were really all about creating the technology and the platform and the features and the functionality that would wow customers and deliver value. The business founder was the person who would get the funding. They would manage the sales and the marketing and the business development and the relationships. And typically they would become the CEO of the company once they got some traction. What I generally saw was the technical founder was usually younger and full of enthusiasm, but the investors always wanted to feel like there was an adult in the room. And they didn't want to put money in unless there was somebody with some gray in their beard who had the benefit of that experience, who knew how to handle hard. And you would have this tag team. And it was valuable, it was important, it also caused friction, but it created this sort of healthy tension of decision making that would kind of keep people on track. The last couple of years has blown that model out of the water. It still exists, but it is not the most common scenario that we see anymore. Now we just have founders. And with technology and vibe coding, the ability for a non-technical person to create technology has never been easier. And the business acumen of the technology people has also never been greater. And so all of a sudden, kind of these old paradigms of having a business founder and a technical founder are getting smushed. And so what is the background of a founder? The background of a founder is absolutely anything. We talk to founders, Len and I, 20 times a week, and they look everything from old folks like me to 20 years old, just dropped out of college, and they're starting their company. And how can they do that? Often as a solo founder, they do it by leveraging the power of AI and agents. And they become the chief everything officer. It becomes their show. And mostly they want cloud and technology to take all of the toil out of the experience. I was working with one startup founder, built a company previously, grew it to $1 billion, had the epiphany that he actually hates running companies. That's not where he finds joy. He loves building things. And so he stepped out and he's sitting at the kitchen table trying to figure out what his next adventure looks like. And he and I are talking, and he said, look, when I started my last company in 2020, I knew what I wanted the company to be. I knew who I had to hire, and I knew what software I had to create, what code I had to write. He said, in 2026, I don't want to hire anybody, and I don't want to write any code. And with the power of an agentic workforce, you can actually do things like that. The downside of this, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, is as we see this huge influx of non-technical founders, you don't have the benefit of that 10 and 20 year experience doing enterprise software. And so we see more and more people running with scissors where they create really cool and interesting apps and they go into production. There's no security review, there's no resilience, there's no fault tolerance. And so all of a sudden things start blowing up. And that can be everything from, oh my God, we got hacked. It can be, did you know that somebody was crypto mining in your account? No, I didn't. What do I do about it? Dude, you're the technical founder. You're supposed to know what to do about it. Where we are able to provide value for these founders is very, very different as a result of this massive shift along this curve of less technical founders. But the power is incredible. You can sit down and you can dream of whatever you want technology to do, and it can do it. The barrier between imagination and implementation has never been lower. By vibe coding and by leveraging other technologies, you can bring something into existence that was never there before. In the old days, you would hire a bunch of people, you would make yourself crazy, trying to keep them all organized, keep them all on task. You don't have to do that anymore. You can get really, really far with an agentic workforce, leveraging managed services, and really putting the power of technology to work for you. And when you do that, you become the captain of a one-person starship. Now, that is fabulous and amazing, and it does have some trade-offs, and we'll talk about those in a moment. But when you start going down this road, and you've got all cylinders firing, and the technology is doing exactly what you want it to do, you're looking at your path forward, and you see nothing but blue skies and tree-lined avenues. You know where you're going. All you have to do is get there. But the reality is it's never a straight path, and the skies aren't always sunny. There's twists and turns along the way. There's devils and dragons waiting to jump out at you at every turn. But what you will find if you do this long enough is afterwards, when you're looking backwards, all you see is a straight path. Because you can connect every decision, every moment in your journey, and it looks like one straight road of how you got to where you are today. And honestly, the bad things that are so horrible in the moment don't seem so bad years down the road. But why are you doing this? Better than 90% failure rate. 97% of companies from seed stage never make it to exit. Why are you putting yourself through this torture? It's simple. You're insane. You fundamentally have to be insane to go into startups. Somebody said, it probably wasn't Einstein, but everybody likes to think it was, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We know more than 90% of startups fail. We know that to go down that road, you're saying goodbye to family and friends. You have long hours. You can never escape it. It follows you wherever you go. There is no such thing as vacation. And everybody is looking to you, especially if you're a solo founder. And it is one of the loneliest jobs in the world because everything points to you. Whether you're talking about your staff, your leadership team, your investors, your board of directors, industry compliance requirements, it all comes back to you. You can't turn to your head of sales and say, dude, I got news for you. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just making this up as I go along. You can't turn to your board and your lead investor and say, I'm just vamping. I'm terrified of what's going to happen next. This and that, and I don't know if we're going to make it. You are all alone on an island. Now, I said something like this at Tech Week yesterday, and what was very clear is we were in a room full of people who were alone. And the nice thing about being in a room full of people who are alone is we're all in this together. And so part of what Len and I get to do is help you feel a little bit less alone. In the whole wide world, what you will find is there's only two resources. There's time and there is money. Know which one is more expensive for you. Sometimes you can trade time for money. Sometimes you can trade money for time, but only sometimes, because you still can't make a baby in 1 month with 9 women. Some things just take time. They have to bake, they have to mature, and no matter how much money you throw at it, you just can't make some things go faster. Understand what those things are early, and you'll save yourself a lot of heartache. Typically, we see a 4-stage journey as startups go from imagination to implementation. We kind of categorize them as formation, validation, growth, and expansion. I think of them as the kitchen table, the cubicle, the boardroom, and we own the building. As you move along that journey, as you go from pre-seed into seed, Series A, now you're taking professional money, Series B, the good and bad change. You want to make sure you understand who you're in here with. And it's very, very important to understand where the company is in its journey, because the needs are different. Are you in a build mode or are you in a sell mode? Do the resources of the company need to be focused on creating that MVP, creating that functionality, having something on the truck that you can sell, or do you have something already? And it's all about customer acquisition and getting out there and getting your name known. Know where you are in that adventure. The second lens is something I steal shamelessly from Ben Horowitz, from Andreessen Horowitz. This is something he talks about in a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. If you are in a startup and you have never read this book, you need to stop what you're doing and read this book. And then you need to put it down and you need to think about it and then you need to read it again. One of the concepts he talks about are startups at a time of peace versus startups in a time of war. When you are at peace, funding's closed, you've got money in the bank, you've got revenue coming in, you've got happy customers, you have the luxury of playing statistics. You can place bets. You can try a couple of different things. You can experiment and iterate and see where you get traction. You can play with a new product or a new vertical and see if you get some market adoption. Usually things are a little bit more casual, and it's easy to decentralize decision making. It's easy to empower your managers and your directors to go out and be more self-actualized. When you are in a time of war, you are running on fumes. And when I say fumes, I have been in companies where we are literally mortgaging our receivables to make payroll. We are that close to being out of money. You have one chance to succeed. You have one path forward. At that point, you are doing calculus. You are not doing statistics anymore. Everything in the company is ruthlessly bent to survival, to that one road through the forest that'll keep you going. There is a heightened sense of urgency, and typically all decision-making goes to one person because it needs to happen quickly. There's no time to make decisions by committee. CEOs that are good CEOs for companies in times of peace are seldom good CEOs in times of war. When you need to make that switch, when you find yourself running out of money with one path forward, make sure you've got the right person in the chair who's able to make those really hard decisions, and it may not be you.
David, I've got a question.
Hit me.
So you just mentioned that CEOs in times of peace are rarely good CEOs in times of war.
Mm-hmm.
What about the reverse of that? Do you ever see folks who like only know how to run on urgency, centralized decision making, like how to then move into, how to move into a time of peace?
Yeah. It is rare to find a CEO who can do both well.
Okay.
Typically, CEOs who are excellent at times of war are generally hated in times of peace. They
Yeah.
are autocratic, they are dictatorial, they do not delegate decision making, they keep everything very close to their chest, and they make people nuts because why are you acting this way? You don't have to. We are at a time of peace. Likewise, CEOs in times who are excellent at times of peace may find themselves paralyzed by indecision. I got one chance to get it right, and I don't know what that decision is. I have seen some that are good at both, but it is a very, very rare phenomenon. Yeah, generally wartime CEOs come across as dictators because they have to be. But when they don't have to be, nobody really wants them.
Okay. Interesting.
So understanding where you are, understanding who you need in the chair, who you need making those decisions. One of the things Ben talks about in the book is that feeling as a first-time CEO, first-time founder, getting funded, and the first thing that happens is your board and your new lead investor walks in and says, "This is really great. The first thing we need to do is replace you with a real CEO." And your heart breaks because you thought you were a real CEO. Every day is a sprint. The velocity from imagination to implementation has never been lower, and what we're seeing is it's not about what is possible anymore. We've already climbed that hill. What's possible is anything. The shift is now what is defensible. Because that barrier of implementation is so low, if you can imagine it, so can other people. If you can vibe code it, so can other people. So it really comes down to, if you are trying to build a company because you've identified a gap in the market, you better be prepared to run as quickly as you can. I get calls, and I'm sure Len does also, on a weekly basis. Oh my God, so-and-so tech company just released something, and it's either better than what I'm doing, or they're giving it away for free. And now I have no business model and I have to start over. If you're looking to exploit a weakness, you better be prepared to run quickly. Where we see companies be far more successful is where you are able to leverage domain expertise or something that is unique or novel about you or what you're doing that makes it very, very hard for someone else to replicate. Maybe that is patentable or trademarkable intellectual property. Maybe it is just a depth of knowledge of a particular vertical or industry. Or maybe it's just a really unique twist on technology that nobody else has figured out. But whatever it is, if you want to go down this road, you better make sure that what you've got is something that other people can't do also. Okay. So let me boil all of this down for you. 10 lessons learned from 20 years in the trenches. First and foremost, understand why you are here. And more importantly, understand why the people who are going down this journey with you are here. I categorize people who are startup founders. There's sort of two ends of the spectrum, and everybody is somewhere in the middle. But when push comes to shove, you've got to favor one or the other. Are you an inventor or are you an investor? And what I mean by that is, are you in this for the love? Are you trying to change the world? Are you in love with the technology that you just so enjoy doing novel things with? Or do you believe that you found an opportunity to make a lot of money? Both of those are great reasons to start a company. The most successful companies I've seen are ones that have both of those things in the founding team. One person who is an inventor, one person who's an investor. However, the most dangerous thing I've seen is when they don't understand the other person is not the same as them. Had a conversation with the startup. We had a business founder and a technical founder. The business founder, 6-time entrepreneur. This was his 6th foray. And I asked him this question. And he said, you know what? I'm an inventor. I'm doing something novel in healthcare. I think I can make things appreciably better for people. And honestly, if this company succeeds or fails, it will not impact the lifestyle of me and my family. And his co-founder was 24 years old and living in an apartment with 3 other guys. He's like, dude, what are you talking about? This absolutely is going to change my life. I am all about the money here. And they had never had that conversation. Most of the time, it doesn't become important until it becomes really important. If you've discovered a cure for childhood diabetes and Big Insulin comes in and says, we will give you $1 billion and your technology will never see the light of day. One person's going to say, dude, we're taking the $1 billion. Are you kidding? And the other one is going to say, are you kidding? How can we take $1 billion? We're going to cure childhood diabetes. Understand who's in the room with you. And it'll just save you a lot of pain and suffering later. We have already established that you are all insane. The thing about startups is it attracts insane people. And so you will surround yourself with insane people by definition. And that is a good thing. But understand you are surrounding yourself with insane people because it's not always a good thing. Sometimes you get people that appear to be great and helpful and aligned with you, and you find out that the person you hired is not the person who showed up for work. And you just have to be prepared to have those hard conversations. But you don't want a room full of people who agree with you. You need somebody in your organization who is prepared to push back, who is going to keep you honest. There is nothing wrong with healthy tension. Tension holds the Golden Gate Bridge up. And contrary to what your grandmother always told you, every thought in your head is not pure genius. You are not always right. You need somebody to sound ideas off of who's going to be able to tell you that's a good idea, that's not a good idea. What if we did it this way? That's how the creative process works. When you are looking at building your team, and if you are successful, if you gain traction, you will have the luxury of hiring people, of building that team, of building that staff. My advice is to focus on the team and not the person. There's a great movie a number of years ago called Miracle on Ice. It was about the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team and how they took a bunch of high school kids and beat the Soviet Union hockey team, the greatest hockey team in the world at the time. They had won 5 out of 6 Olympic golds. And there was a scene in the movie where they cut the best player. And the assistant coach says to the coach, what are you doing? He's our best player. He says, I don't want the best player. I want the best team. You can have an amazing rock star who is a genius blow up your company because they don't play nice with others. I have hired people against my better judgment who came in with fabulous technical skills. I wanted my team to be empowered in the hiring decision, and they really liked this person. And I just had a sense that this was not going to end well, but they really liked them. They had a great complement of technical skills, and we hired them. And they did not play nice with others. And we lost velocity. And it took us a while to recover from that. Think about the team. Think about the pieces working together. Don't just focus on getting the best individual. This one gets really near and dear to my heart. As you continue to grow your company and as you continue to add people, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you think about it or not, you are building a corporate culture. Make sure that the culture you build is a company that you yourself want to work in. In the old days, Everybody would come to an office, everybody would be in one place. It was a lot easier to inoculate that culture across everybody in the organization because they were all there breathing the same air. In a remote world, you have to go over and above to create the culture that you want to live in. Culture is what happens when you leave the room. I have bad news for you. Nobody cares what you say. They really don't. Everybody watches what you do. If you say we are a company that believes in work-life balance and we don't expect anybody to be responding to emails on the weekends, and you are writing emails on the weekends, all anybody sees is we are a company that writes emails on the weekends. And it doesn't matter that you say, oh, you don't have to respond to this till Monday, because they're going to, because you are, because they don't care what you say. They care what you do. You can end up creating a very toxic company without meaning to, resulting in a place where you don't want to work because you didn't pay attention, because you didn't invest in creating the culture of the company that you want to be in. So how do you do that? One of the things that I've done when I've led companies is I try and distill everything down to a very easy set of principles. At Google, we have 3 very simple rules. Respect the customer, respect the opportunity, respect each other. Very easy to consume. You can do all of the mission statements that you want, and they are a valuable exercise for you to kind of work through what's important from a company perspective and what you're focused on. And once upon a time, investors would pay for these very expensive companies to come in and work you through your mission statement. And is it will or is it shall? And is it green or is it teal? And that was all very fine and fluffy. But in the moment, when you need people to make a decision, you need to make it easy for them to understand what is the kind of decision I should make for this company. Once upon a time, I built a hospital telepharmacy company. I had hundreds of pharmacists working from home alone in the middle of the night. And if you've ever known a pharmacist, the thing that will paralyze them more than anything else is the risk of making a wrong decision. And rightly so, because when a pharmacist makes a wrong decision, people die. But it meant that even things that were not life-threatening, they were just never wired to make decisions in the middle of the night. And so I made it very simple for them. I said, look, if you are in the moment, and if you can look me in the eye and you can tell me what you did was in the best interest of the patient, or was in the best interest of the customer, or was in the best interest of the company, and you can explain that to me, I don't have to agree with you. I will back you and I will support you 100%. We may talk about how you came to that conclusion. I may explain to you why I disagree, but you will never have to fear that I will be against you. I will absolutely support you if you can tell me this pissed off the customer, but it was the right thing to do for the patient. Great. I'll take the heat with the customer. This was the best thing to do for the customer, but it cost our company money. Okay. I will take the heat with the board. Keep it very simple. Make it easy for people to do the right thing, and then catch them doing the right thing. We spend so much time looking for fault and looking for failure. When somebody does something right, acknowledge it. Praise them. Let other people see you praising them. Build the culture that rewards good decisions. This is a big one. Focus on solving the right problems. I have built and buried companies that have done amazing things. Some of them had incredible technology that just didn't really solve a problem. It was just really cool. But a lot of them solved problems, but they weren't the right problems. They weren't big enough problems. If you have a boat that's leaking versus a boat that's going over a waterfall, Which one's the bigger problem? One of them is existential. I would walk into a director of pharmacy's office and say, I have a solution that's going to save you $1 million a year. And they say, that's great. I've got a $50 million shortfall over here. If you can't talk to me about my $50 million problem, I don't care about your $1 million solution. But here's the great thing. If you ask your customers or your prospective customers, what wakes you up at 2 a.m., they know the answer. They will tell you what their big problems are that they want your help with. And if you can come in solving those problems, not selling something new, not selling technology, something whiz bang. Show me how you solve my problems. Show me how you are on my side of the table. Help me understand where in my budget I'm going to pull money away from and give it to you instead, and why that's a better investment of my dollars. If you can't do that, then people are just doing you a courtesy to even listen to what your proposal is. Your customers will tell you what their problems are. They will tell you what they want you to do for them. Listen to them, be guided by them. However, they will tell you what is good for them. That doesn't mean it's good for you. Walk the balance between being nimble and flexible. Respond to the market. Respond to your customers, but don't grow to broke. You grow to broke when you start tweaking your system for every customer, and you end up with not one product, but 100 products. Each one is bespoke. Each one is heavy maintenance to maintain. And it's all about, I just have to get that one next sale. And to get that, I have to do this one thing. And you end up with this nightmare Frankenstein creation that does 100 things, none of them particularly well, but good enough to get that one sale. But that's not a company, and that's not a product. That's an antique store. That's a collection. That's a flea market. Listen to the market. Listen to your customers. And then synthesize that information into an articulate vision of where you should go. Keep your eye on the prize. Why are you here? Why did you go down this ridiculous adventure? Are you an inventor? Are you an investor? I will apologize in advance to my investor friends who I love dearly. But if I hear you are here to build shareholder value one more time, I might cry. Because even though you are a shareholder, and that is true, nobody got up in the morning and said, I'm going to start a company and suffer pain and misery for years in order to make someone else wealthy. Why are you here? If you want to change the world, go change the world. If you want to make a lot of money, go make a lot of money. Be true to who you are. When you are presenting to potential investors, it is really tempting to twist and pervert what you're doing and how you're packaging it so that you are telling them what you think you want them to hear. You get to say no also. You are entering into a relationship that is two-sided. You have a partnership here, but it is not an equal partnership. You are building a unique piece of art. It is unparalleled in the world. There is nothing quite like it, and you can explain why you are singularly the only ones doing this and the best ones to do this. For an investor, and I mean a professional investor, you are a used car. There are tens of thousands out there. Their job is to pick the best collection of used cars with the expectation that one or two of them will become valuable. You are a hedge on their balance sheet. They can be very kind. They can help you. They can support you. When push comes to shove, though, You have a business relationship with them. You are building something amazing. They have a job to do. Their job is to make money. They make money by helping you, and they do help you. But the jobs are very different, and you need to understand that. Lastly, sometimes you just have to say, and if you're old enough to remember Ferris Bueller, you know what comes next. One of the strangest and best pieces of advice I ever got was from a CEO that I had who said, you know what, to be a successful startup CEO, sometimes you have to be a juvenile delinquent. And what that means is you have to know when you can bend the rules. You don't want to break them, but you want to bend them. One of my favorite examples of this was at a conference, one of the great big conferences, lots and lots of people there, lots of big companies, lots of fancy booths. And this startup CEO didn't spend any money on a booth, just got himself a day pass. And what he would do is he would watch the booths. And all the booths had screens where they would display the demos of their products, and he would wait. And when somebody would go to lunch or would step away for a customer meeting, he would rush over and he would connect his laptop to their screen. And he would do his own demo. And people would gather around. You know, he's got the big banner of the big name company over him. And they would come over and he would get all of their contact information, and he didn't pretend to be part of that company, but he was just sort of, in the booth giving a demo. And then the person would come back and they'd say, what are you doing? Get out of my booth. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize somebody was using this. And he'd unplug it. And then he would go to another booth and he would do it again. He probably got the equivalent of a $10,000 booth for a $500 day pass. Is he going to get arrested? No. Is he going to get people giving him unhappy looks? Sure. But you know what? He's a juvenile delinquent. And that's kind of what you do. Last piece of advice. I told you 10, I'm going to give you 11. Under promise, over deliver. And this one for me is the most important part. You want to honor the moment. You are living the stories you are going to tell for the rest of your life. You are on a wild and ridiculous journey. You're going to meet some of the most incredible people, good and bad. And hopefully you find time to remember to have fun. Now, I like sports. I don't live my life by sports, but I do have a couple of clips that I'm going to show. This one is Carol Larson talking about handle hard.
I was talking with Shay a couple days ago, and one of the things we talked about was how we all wait in life for things to get easier. Think in your own life, if you've waited for something to get easier. Oh, I just got to get through this and then it'll be easy. I just got to get through preseason and then it'll be okay. I've just got to get through my junior year of high school and then the classes are going to get easier. Or I've just got to get to my spring of my senior year of college and it's going to be easier. It's what we do. We wait for stuff to get easier. It will never get easier. What happens is you handle hard better. That's what happens. Most people think that it's going to get easier. Life is going to get easier. Basketball is going to get easier. School's going to get easier. It never gets easier. What happens is you become someone that handles hard stuff better.
So to the earlier point, that I think really sums up why that older experienced person is able to be so successful, because you learn to be the person that handles hard. The next clip, I kind of debated whether or not to include it, but I'm going to. It's a little bit different in that I mentioned the Miracle on Ice about the 1980 hockey team. There are tremendous parallels between startups and sports. It is hard, you often lose, it is often adversarial, and you need to inspire.
So David,
Yep.
on the topic of wartime versus peacetime,
Yes.
Herb Brooks, I think, is an excellent example of a wartime leader. And if you ever watch documentaries about him, like, he wasn't exactly a warm and fluffy guy during peacetime either. Like he was everyone went to his funeral, but I don't know if he knew how to be in a different mode.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. In fact, Netflix just came out with another movie about the 1980 Olympics, but through most of the movie, he is a hard driving individual. And this is the moment right before the US hockey team goes out on the ice when he inspires. Substitute everything he says about hockey with startups. Substitute everything he says about the Soviets with whatever big tech company or whatever institutional company you are looking to unseat. And this is the kind of inspiration you need to be able to generate within your organization to get these very disparate people to be able to follow you into the gates of hell. And I love this clip. So if you'll indulge me.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you've earned here tonight. One game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
So probably none of you are playing hockey, but probably all of you will have that moment where you need to walk into the room. You need to get your swagger on. You need to understand that you deserve the right to have that conversation, that customer conversation, that investor conversation. That you are the displacing element. And to be able to have that level of conviction and inspiration, there will be moments where you just need to be able to do that. And granted, this is hockey. I know of no better speech to kind of set that up. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions, tell any stories, apologize if I hurt anybody's feelings.
I have a question.
Hit me.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, David. My name is Sandeep. I am a founder of a company called Scribble Labs. We're building post-acute care AI.
Okay.
For home health.
Okay.
I wanted to talk more about the team, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the midst of hiring sort of our first employees. You talked about hiring, like you talked about building a team. Could you speak to what you look for in your first employee? Like what kind of values, what kind of things?
Yeah. It's a great question. Typically, what I find to be very successful is whenever possible, I will overhire for a role. I will hire a more senior person than I need with the expectation that they will be a player coach and they will ultimately be able to hire in underneath them. But what that means is you may run into ego. You may run into somebody who says, what do you mean? You're hiring me to be a vice president? I don't do that kind of work. Dude, if you don't do that kind of work, then I don't want you here. You need somebody who's going to be willing to roll up their sleeves and do whatever is necessary. Typically, I will break problem solving into 4 different categories, and it's sort of based on tier or tenure. The most junior people are going to come to you and say, boss, we have a problem. Your manager level is going to come to you and say, boss, we have a problem. This is what I think you should do about it. Your director level people are going to come to you and say, boss, we have a problem and this is what I think I should do about it. And your most senior level people are going to come to you and say, boss, we had a problem. I took care of it. This is what I did to make sure it doesn't happen again. But I want you to be aware. Look for people who are always going to handle those problems at a higher tier than the role you are hiring them for. That's first and foremost. Secondly, is this somebody that you can see yourself trapped in an airport on a Friday night with? If you imagine yourself sitting in a bar in a snowed-in O'Hare airport and you are sitting there with them, does it fill you with dread that you are stuck with this person? If so, you probably don't want to work with them. One of the things that I would always do, we'd go through all the interviews and I'd always have somebody outside of my immediate org interview somebody as well. I want to get a balanced perspective. And then they'll come in for their final interview and I'll say, great, drop your bags. We're going to leave the office. Oh, okay, where are we going? You pick. We'll go for coffee or we'll go for a beer. Get them in a place that they will be more comfortable. Get them to let their guard down a little bit. The person who shows up for work is not the person you interview. It's not the person you hire. Try and get a peek behind who the person will be that shows up for work. Is this somebody who is going to stand with you when things get hard? Because they get hard. Or is this person who's just going to be a thorn in your paw?
So first, I think Scribble is probably our newest portfolio company, our most recent. So congratulations. Welcome to Bend.
Thanks.
Another question, and David, this kind of relates a little bit more to, so Ben Franklin Technology Partners, we're the VC, we're the evil used car salesman investor people.
Not evil, not evil.
And my job is portfolio success, so I'm here to help everybody here.
Yes.
But ultimately also to help the, our organization, so we're all clear. We only invest in companies located in Southeastern Pennsylvania. Len actually lives not too far away from us. He's in our region. We talked in the video, you mentioned, we talked a little bit about company culture, and it was easier because people were coming into the office. We are, just to let you know, we now have an HR partner who can assist you with some of these hiring decisions. For an early stage company, do you have any thoughts around maybe not necessarily having people in person in an office, but having people who live close by that you can go get that cup? Like, how do you feel about that in-person ability?
Yeah, it cannot be overemphasized, to be honest. I think remote work has completely revolutionized the way people interact with their employer, whether it's a startup or a big tech company. It used to be that people very strongly identified with their company. They spent a lot of time in the physical proximity of peers and colleagues. And there was a very strong sense of identity that went along with that. I work for X company. That's not just what I do, it's who I am. And what's happened with remote work is work has become far more transactional. I sit at my desk every day, and if I wear hat A or hat B, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm not invested in the company. I'm not going to go the extra mile because I do work, they pay me. If I don't like it, I change who I work for, but my life doesn't change. I sit here at my desk. Having those in-person conversations. Part one. So, little known fact, I actually have a master's degree in linguistic anthropology. One of the things that they teach you about language is, depending on the study you look at, roughly 25% of the meaning you convey is the words that you use. 25% is the way that you say it. That's great versus, well, that's great. Completely different meaning just based on how I deliver it. 50% of the communication is nonverbal. It's the look on your face. It's the tilt of your body. It's how you respond. Getting people to breathe the same air and be in proximity of each other is massively valuable in building that sense of community, in forging those relationships, and in creating that environment where, frankly, when things get bad, because they will, Len isn't a face on the screen that I'm going to scream at because I think he made a bad decision. Len is a guy with a wife and triplets who I know, who I've met, who I enjoy spending time with, who likes good food. And you know what? We're in a lousy situation. And we're going to work together to solve it because we have this underlying fundamental relationship that was born of proximity, of spending time together and talking about things that are not solely work related. So absolutely, if you aren't coming into an office together, that's fine. Bring people together anyway. Get everybody breathing the same air. Like the benefits that it pays in the long term are massive.
And after this, if you guys have time, I will show you all of our co-working space that is here, including the bigger space that is downstairs that is available to our portfolio companies. I know some of you have some shared office spaces, but we've also got, if you want to do something even bigger or have customers in and you want something that's a little bit more, I'm going to show that to you later, because we really believe in that too. And honestly, that's why we're kicking off this partnership program with Len. He lives close by. He's invested in the Philadelphia area. He can come be here in person. So that's really great. Any other questions, folks on that? Go ahead.
Before we do any other questions, I wanted to introduce folks to Allison, who's so Gunnar is the business side of the customers who cover you guys in Philadelphia, but Allison is the technical side. So I don't know if you wanted to introduce yourself, Allison, to all.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. As you said, I'm Allison. My title at Google is I'm a customer engineer. So I help with all sorts of cloud questions like, how do I get quota? How do I get TPUs? How do I get GPUs? What tools should I be using? How should I connect these tools together? Kind of things along those lines is what I help startups with. I've been doing this job for the last 6 years, and I was at AWS before that. So very nice to meet you guys and happy to help with any cloud technical issues that y'all face.
Hey, Allison. Len, I think we've got a couple more questions in here, if that's okay.
Hit it.
Please proceed.
All right.
Sure. Hey, David, nice to meet you. Jake Gallagher from Zuppler. So what we do is we are a digital all-in-one solution for restaurants, so online ordering, marketing, loyalty. One of the things we've been around for several years now is we're trying to shift the mindset of employees, right? Like, especially in today's world with AI, we're trying to push, instead of thinking in like weeks and months, into like hours and days. We're facing like a lot of newer startups coming on, right? Like their startups are AI-based startups. So in order to compete, we have to shift the mindset. I was just wondering if you have any advice or thoughts on like shifting mindset with employees who have been with a company, for a long period of time versus kind of bringing in, newer employees to kind of help shift that mindset or culture.
It's a good question. One of the advantages of existing employees is that they have the wealth of institutional knowledge that pays massive dividends. especially when things get outside the lines. So being able to maintain and encourage that institutional knowledge and keep that in-house and not give people a reason to go elsewhere is very, very important. There is, as I'm sure you are all seeing, a lot of excitement about AI. There is also a lot of terror about AI, about being displaced. There are negative pushbacks against overly engineering AI solutions. We're seeing more and more this shift from human in the loop to AI in the loop, where it's not about a human gatekeeper as an AI does the work and replaces humans. It's about having an AI augment and inform humans to do what they are doing even better. I suspect a lot of what you may be running into is that fear and terror of AI being replaced by AI dumbing down society and replacing human creativity. I think being able to present in such a way that we are not replacing you, we are taking toil out of your life. In the telepharmacy, we used to talk about allowing you to practice at the top of your license. Like, what are the things that excite you about your job that you want to be able to focus on, but you don't get to spend enough time doing because you're doing muck? How do we get the muck managed for you, leveraging tools and technology so that you just get to do the fun, cool stuff? And I think if you can present it in that light, you'll get a lot more adoption and a lot less fear.
Other questions? Anyone who's on the line?
He's asking, I could ask him one more.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Building a product, right? So we're building AI in the healthcare space. Something that, I think about and talk about with my team and we talk to investors and such. There's a need for us to move fast and acquire market share. We're new in the space and what we're doing. And sometimes that means going broad, right? So for example, we're in home health, and then we integrate with a few EMRs, three different EMRs. Each new EMR that I integrate with opens up a customer base for me for that particular EMR.
Mhm.
But when I do that, I increase my breadth of the tech stack, right? Which means I have to maintain more with the same small team. How do you think about going deep versus going broad?
Yeah, that goes exactly back to the grow to broke comment that I made earlier. You have limited resources and you need to pick your bets. Doing things like integrating with EMRs, there are potentially partners out there that can do all of the plumbing into the respective EMRs and allow you to focus on just integrating into them. You may be at a stage in the company where it's worth paying somebody else to manage the plumbing so that you can focus on core functionality. Integrating into another EMR may open up a customer base for you because you have the connectivity, but just because you have the connectivity doesn't mean that you have a product that's delivering real value or delivering something unique. You want to be able to focus your engineering resources on what you can uniquely deliver, not plumbing into somebody else's environment. So that would be the first thing, is what can you just get off your shoulders? The second thing would be look for customer density. If you are going to go integrate into a one-off EMR system because there's this one customer that uses it out in rural Nebraska, and you really feel a need to sign that one new customer because you haven't done any sales this month, that may look like a great decision on the sales side and a terrible decision on the engineering side, because you have just increased your tech debt and your tech overhead by X% in exchange for not nearly enough money to cover it. So you just need to be thoughtful about where you're willing to invest those resources. You may have to walk away from customers. You may have somebody who says, I will buy your product if only. And you'll have your salesperson jumping up and down and saying, you are denying me my commission by refusing to allow me to sell to this customer. You say, yeah, but it's a bad decision. Like, you need to be able to have those grown-up conversations. I had a head of sales one time that still baffles me. He was really, really nice guy, very smart, but he was flabbergasted. He said, look, we can get these huge customers. We just have to drop our price. I'm like, dude, we're underwater. We're losing money. He said, yeah, but we'll make it up in volume. If we're losing money at 100, we're losing more money at 1,000. Like, how is it that you think we're going to somehow make money when we're doing more of a bad thing? And so sometimes you just have to be willing to walk away from business. But, you know, it's the art and science of picking your paths.
Thank you.
David, I think I can maybe speak for everybody that we would love to do, you know, another session with you at some point, or an office hour. This was great. Did everyone appreciate this? Yeah.
My
This was
pleasure.
really
Good luck.
excellent. Thank you so much, David.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and we have a session next Tuesday and Thursday. Remember, next Tuesday, we're gonna be downstairs, and having folks come work from the office while Senator McCormick is here would be greatly appreciated. Folks who are joining us online, I hope you come on in person. We've got a great founders lunch after this. As David mentioned, you know, it can be a little bit lonely being a founder. So one of the things I wanted to throw into this session was the opportunity to have lunch with your fellow founders and startup professionals, to be able to share. And it's also really critical for me putting together our portfolio success, where I'm trying to listen in, and I think I get a lot more insight listening to you than I do from you responding. Although your Google forms were great,
Hey, Google.
I just feel like I get a little bit
Serenity
more out of
qualities.
listening to you and what you need. So please consider coming in person, and or even just stay on the line during the lunch.
Hey,
sometime.
Google.
You to command as root.
Turn
Serving
Serenity.
as a
Len?
lightweight alternative to pseudo.
Sorry, I just muted you, Len.
No, I was talking to my Google device. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, thank you so much for your time, everybody. And we will see you next week. Bye for now.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
And I'll
Thank
have
you.
the recording for this. I'll send out the link shortly, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Len.